The Get Down is the latest Netflix original series and stars Justice Smith, Shameik Moore, Jimmy Smits, and Jaden Smith. Yes, you heard that right, Jaden Smith. It's about this group of teenagers growing up in the Bronx in 1977, and they kind of are sort of discovering things, they're sort of figuring out the world, they're going through the struggle of things that were happening in New York at the time. That mainly centers around this group of kids who are trying to become a DJ, an MC, and a girl who's trying to become this singer. So it's mainly a musical show, but it's got a lot of other aspects to it as well. This series sat in my watch list for about a week or so, and when I finally got to watch it, it was really, really good. Let's start with the positives of the series. Now, like I said, this series was surprisingly really, really good. One of the best aspects to it was the story. It's kind of the story that you don't get to see very often nowadays. I mean, everything tends to be very CGI heavy or give you a lot of action or suspense or drama. This one gave you some drama and some other comedic moments, but it was something kind of fresh seeing something set in the 70s rather than something modern. I don't know what it was about it. Maybe it was just like this historical aspect, but you kind of get the sense of these characters going through this struggle. You kind of understand their determination and sometimes desperation to get out of the Bronx during this really rough time in New York City.
I got courage. This ain't Disneyland, this is the Bronx.
So it's just something interesting to see these teenagers going through. Also, the story kind of centers around more or less the birth of hip-hop from disco music, which is kind of interesting as well. A story that, again, hasn't really been explained or done in really any recent amount of time. I mean, the best sort of hip-hop story we've gotten in a long time was Straight Outta Compton. This one kind of takes it to the origins of hip-hop with where it started in like the Bronx in New York City with like Grandmaster Flash and stuff. So it's really this interesting dynamic to see the whole culture shift between disco in like the 60s, early 70s into what hip-hop became in the late 70s. Another big plus for me was the setting and the environment. This was, like I said, not set in 1977 mainly. They even mentioned Star Wars coming out, I think, in like the first episode. So that gives you a good time frame as to when this was coming out, or when this was set, rather. But the setting was absolutely great. I loved how they used old footage of all around New York through sort of scene transitions sometimes. Like they would show like panning shots of the city through like old footage. And I think that was really cool. They even used like old news footage during some things that were happening in that time. And it was just kind of cool to see this old stuff ingrained into the show and the amount of effort that went into like the costume design, the setup, the settings, the environment, all of that stuff. Another really cool thing that they did in relation to that is they added film grain to the actual story, like the actual modern thing that you're watching. So it feels like you're watching something old. You kind of get a sense of the time period, the sense of the quality of things, how they were. So it's kind of cool to see this film grain on some of the modern shots. It just really put you into the time period, which was really, really fun, especially since Netflix created this show. They did something kind of similar with Stranger Things immersing you in the 80s, and now with this one, they're immersing you in the 70s, and they're really going above and beyond putting you in these environments, and it just really adds to the overall feel of the show. Also, the acting in this show is pretty well done as well. A lot of the actors, especially the young actors, are going way above and beyond what you would expect. Similar to Stranger Things, the kids do a phenomenal job. In this one, the teenagers and the kids do a great job as well. The acting by Justice Smith and Shameik Moore are hands down the best performances of the entire show, at least in my opinion. Shameik Moore was in Dope, which was also really, really good. But both are phenomenal actors. They pretty much lead the show, and it's definitely worth it. A lot of time and effort is put on these characters and developing them. Other than that, Jimmy Smits does a pretty good job. He plays one of like these guys that's going out for like mayor and trying to be more political, stuff like that. Jaden Smith, as I had mentioned earlier, is also in the show. He's not as much of a part of the show as you would think. But he is part of the group, so he does get some screen time, but he's not like a central character. He does have his moments, but he's not like a central character like Justice Smith or Shameik Moore are. The final positive for me, and probably one of the biggest positives, has to be the music. Now, music is probably one of the biggest portions of this show. It's pretty much centers around disco music, the birth of hip hop, and DJing, a girl trying to become a singer. It centers around music and music growing, and there's all kinds of music that plays throughout this series, mainly of the era, just to fully immerse you inside of the era of 1977. So there's a lot of disco, a lot of very early hip hop, a lot of raw hip hop that is mainly beats and people trying to figure out beats. And it's something that's very fun to see, in my opinion, because I feel like that adds even more to the show. It lets you feel like you're being a part of something that already happened. Although you're not a part of it because happened in 1977, it feels like you're a part of it. You're sort of discovering what this music is with these characters. But like I said, the music is such a big part of this show. Even though it's not like in your face every single second of every single episode, it adds a lot to the dynamic of the show, and that's extremely important. Now let's talk about the negatives of the show, because although it is an absolutely fantastic show, it does have a little bit of things that I had an issue with. One of the biggest negatives that I had noticed was some of the acting, not necessarily the acting, but there was one actress in particular, the main actress who's trying to become a singer. Her name is Harrison F. Guardiola. I don't know if I said that right. She's a phenomenal actress. She does a great job. Her singing is great, don't get me wrong. But the one nitpick thing that I had with her was her Spanglish. Now that's going to sound really weird, but where I live, Spanglish is like 90% of the language. If it's not English or Spanish, it's 90% Spanglish. So you get to hear that on a daily basis. New York and Miami are probably one of the two top places where this happens. With this taking place in New York, I'm being in Miami, so I kind of understand that dynamic. But her English-Spanish sort of speaking, where she says some stuff in English and then has an additional word or two or sentence or phrase in Spanish, it sounded very like soap opera-ish or like novella-ish in the way she like dramatized her words, or like the way she pronounced it. Like, I watched the entire series. My wife didn't watch the entire series, but she saw some of the series. And even on her scenes where she saw that girl doing her Spanglish, she turned to me and said, "What's wrong with that girl? Like, why is she talking like that? Why is she putting that amount of like emphasis on some of her words when she switches languages?" So I'm not the only person who noticed this, but maybe it's just something you more notice when you deal with it more on a daily basis. Not entirely sure. But that was just probably one of the biggest acting gripes I had with the entire series. Another element that I wasn't that big of a fan of, there were very small moments, a couple in every episode, maybe not even every episode, maybe every other episode, where it felt like it was full-on musical, like it was about to go into these characters singing how they feel. Luckily, that didn't happen. It's not a musical whatsoever, but it felt like it was on the verge where things were sort of being over-dramatic to the point, and characters were interacting to the point where they were about to break into song to tell each other how they feel, or to like footloose it and just like dance punch your way through a warehouse or whatever. That's kind of how it felt like it at times. Luckily, like I said, it didn't go that far, but it did teeter on that edge a couple of times. The final negative, and I don't even want to call it a negative because it's kind of more of a neutral thing, but unfortunately, it's only 6 episodes on Netflix right now. I guess they're doing it in parts as far as like the season goes. So only part 1 of the first season is on right now. Part 2 won't come until 2017, but I'm really looking forward to it. I actually didn't mean to, but when I started this series, I finished it in a day. I totally didn't mean to do that, but it completely sucked me in with 6 episodes, and I just really want more. I'm hoping to see more and a lot more of these characters in the second part, hopefully sooner than later. I hope this, like Stranger Things, continues to grow because it's a great series that I think everyone should see. The grade I'm going to give The Get Down is an A-. Netflix is killing it this year with Daredevil Season 2, then Stranger Things, and now The Get Down. They're absolutely crushing television right now. I don't even watch TV, I just watch Netflix and look forward to their series because they are killing it. Their environments are amazing, their setups are amazing, their acting is phenomenal, and this show is no exception. In fact, it might even raise that bar just a little bit, really close to Stranger Things, but I think Stranger Things edges out just a little bit for me. But this one is a great time and definitely worth watching. It has amazing music, great acting, everything is super fun about it. It's kind of dramatic, and it just has so many elements to it that I think it's definitely worth checking out. Have you seen The Get Down? Who is your favorite character? Let me know who and why down in the comment section down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and like always, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos, and we'll see you in the next one.
Shout out to DJ, we call conductor, cause shout out fantastic, so bad mother.